Today I'll be removing the radiator and grille panel from my 1964 Land Rover Series 2A. As a reminder, I'm not a mechanic, but I'm learning and sharing as I go. Here's a list of the tools that I used during this removal. As you can see, I've already removed Randy's bonnet. Next up is the removal of the radiator and grille panel. I start by removing the nameplate that's attached with 2 screws to the grille panel and lift the panel away. Randy did not come with a front apron panel, but if she did, the next step would be to remove the 4 securing screws and lift the panel away. Next, I disconnect the battery terminals, first the negative post, then the positive post, and tuck them out of the way. After removing the radiator cap, I placed a 5-gallon bucket below the radiator, removed the radiator drain plug, shown here, and allowed the coolant to drain out. The bucket I used was way too small. Covering the top of the fan is a radiator fan shroud. It's connected with 3 screws, 2 here and 1 here, and 1 bolt down here. Remove the connectors, but leave the shroud in place for now. Next, loosen the upper radiator coolant hose clamp and pry the hose from the radiator. The radiator fan shroud can now be lifted away. Loosen the lower radiator coolant hose clamp and pry that hose from the bottom of the radiator. The next step involves removing 4 bolts from the front of the fan blade assembly. Unfortunately, access to the bolts is tricky. To give you an idea of what you're up against, here's an X-ray view of how the fan looks behind the radiator. To remove these bolts, I recommend using a stubby ratcheting spanner, taking care not to bloody your knuckles against the radiator fins. Even after removing the 4 bolts, the fan cannot be removed until you later lift out the radiator. So for now, just lower the fan blades to rest on the lower part of the fan cowl. Now there's some wiring that needs to be addressed. Behind the radiator grille opening, you'll find the wires that run to the headlights. Disconnect and carefully label the electrical leads for the headlights. Randy has a number of other wires in this cluster that have been cut. For now, I'm disconnecting and labeling these wires and pulling them out of the radiator grille towards the battery. There are a number of bolts that need to be removed that connect the radiator grille panel to the wings. The exact number is unclear because it appears that Randy is missing several from the driver's side. The bolt heads appear inside the grille panel, and the nuts and washers are inside the wheel wells. Additionally, there are 2 bolts that secure the radiator grille panel to the bonnet prop bracket. These need to be removed. Finally, 3 bolts securing the radiator grille panel to the chassis crossmember need to be removed. The radiator and grille panel can now be lifted off. The fan blade assembly, previously loosened, is now free and can be reattached to the engine.